What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Lavon Cason, back at it again with another reaction video. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video which is called The Truth About the Nintendo Switch Pro and Why It Won't Go Away. The video is made by Spawnwave, so yeah, let's begin. Let's watch the video.
Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic today, and that is the Nintendo Switch Pro. We had another scare for it this past week, and once again, nothing happened. I mean, we got a Splatoon 3 themed Switch, which is cool for Splatoon fans, but it wasn't that really powerful Switch system that people were hoping to see. And we've been through this many, many times now, and I've noticed that there is a lot of fatigue, frustration, annoyance, all of this going on whenever it comes up. But today I want to talk about why the Switch Pro is never going away. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you're subscribed down below. So first of all, let's talk about where this Switch Pro talk really started from. And this was before the Switch came out. A little bit of a blast from the past here for you guys. If you've been on the channel for a long time, we're gonna go back to like the couch era. Yeah, that far back. But let's take a look. This was back in 2016. It was before the Switch came out. And to my knowledge, this is around the first real talks of maybe a more
I remember something like this.
I was anticipating that.
I definitely do remember this. I remember, some Nintendo fans, on YouTube talking about this Switch, as a dev kit or whatever. I definitely do remember this. I remember the 8 gigabytes of RAM, the HDMI, the Ethernet, looked much more complex than the normal version. Yeah, I definitely do remember something like this. I definitely do remember it. And I do remember some Nintendo YouTubers at the time talking about this. I definitely do. But let's keep on playing the video.
Right? Like that was the thing that was really being pointed out. Digital Foundry talked about it as well, and hey, it got revealed, eventually came out, and yeah, it was the next one that was downclocked to meet certain specifications.
Underclocked Tegra X1 with 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Whether it's battery life, heat, power drop, all these different things, right? But there was this posting that went up, and from what I could tell, looking at it, it's actually that same forum right now out of China that there's talk going on currently around another Switch being in development that has ramped up these Switch Pro rumors again. But this was talking about there being multiple systems in development at the time. Like, we, of course, know the Switch now, but there was talks around a development kit that plugged into the TV without the need for a dock. There was one that seemed to have just an entire full-size GPU on it, and then there was one that was pointed out that they were speculating cores that are a bit more powerful than what's in the Switch now, like an A73 or something there. But what was interesting about this and why this caught so many people's eyes after the Switch was fully revealed with specifications and all, they got everything right down to the gram when it comes to weighing these things. I mean, it was mind-blowing stuff, because it's well, they were definitely within the factory checking these things out, and they were close enough to pick them up, put them on a scale, and tell us the weight, even the battery capacity. All that stuff was spot on. So something was going on there. However, looking back on it, I would say most likely what they had seen in development were probably prototypes that were being at least put together for R&D for Nintendo to look at down the road and decide if there is something else they can do with the Switch as they go along.
I see that. I can see that.
There will be a more powerful Switch someday. This will not be the last system that Nintendo ever creates. However, since then,
yeah, we will someday see a more powerful Switch. I'm leaning towards, next year, honestly, either early next year or fall 2023, we are going to see that Switch Pro, Switch 4K, or Switch DLSS, Switch 2, whatever Nintendo wants to call it. It'll probably come next year sometime.
And we've basically had talks around the next system as soon as this one came out. Every single year, actually. I mean, even in 2017, people were like, wonder what that Switch was. Was it an extra dock that you plug the Switch into? And then we get a little further down, and 2019 comes around, and there were talks about there being multiple SKUs in development, and then we had the shell leak out. Oh, it's a Switch Lite. Okay. The following year, Once again, more rumors around there being a Switch Pro or a Switch revision of some kind, and then Nintendo showed up to their investors briefing and said, no new hardware this year. We're not doing it.
Yep. And that was the first time that, back in 2020, to where Nintendo has said, we are in the middle of the Switch's life cycle. 2020 was the first year that they actually said something like that.
And you'll hear something about safety. You can't go a day.
Another ad. Let me skip ad.
Comes around, that being last year, and we hear once again talks around there being a new Switch of some kind that was going to target 4K visuals for upscaling, and it was going to have a 7-inch OLED screen. That was from Bloomberg. And they were half right. They were correct in the sense that it had a 7-inch OLED display, but the internals, for the most part, all the same. The chip, same chip that we had at that time with the red box Switch. And I do wonder...
2021 was also the second year that Nintendo, I said again, the Switch is at the middle of its life cycle.
If things had changed maybe in planning for Nintendo with the chip shortage and all that, who knows? Maybe the Switch OLED was supposed to be a fully revised Switch with a...
I've heard people say that, definitely. I definitely heard people say that. Like, the Switch OLED that released last year was supposed to be the Switch Pro, but due to chip shortages. And I could see that, I could see that.
It's an upgrade on the handheld side with the screen and a LAN port for that new dock. But every single time that was happening, there were weeks of speculation. We even got to the point where it was imminent, and then we got the OLED display. So now we're kind of sitting here once again with the idea.
Let's be real though, guys. Let's be real at this point. The updates and the upgrades that Nintendo been making so far with the Nintendo Switch have been primary for the handheld side of the Nintendo Switch, not the docked side of the Nintendo Switch. Because in 2019, there was the red box Switch and also the Switch Lite. The red box Switch, has a little bit better battery life. And the Switch Lite is made for primary for those out there who only play, who would only play in handheld. 2020, there was nothing. 2021 Switch OLED, kickstand, has improved. The screen has improved. Now it's OLED instead of LED. What else? The dock, it had a Ethernet port, but there was no 4K upscaling on the dock or anything like that. No DLSS or anything. So the improvements that Nintendo have made at this point for the Nintendo Switch hardware rise have been mainly for the handheld side of the Nintendo Switch.
The idea of there being some release for the system leading up to a September reveal, that according to actually the same forum, like I said, that a lot of this information for the Foxconn leak came out of, that being that, yeah, there is some system that is being manufactured currently with a Switch logo on the back, and they've seen it run Monster Hunter Rise at 60 FPS. The thing I will say about this, a lot of information getting mixed in here, and I do question how much of it is legitimate versus how much stuff is just kind of getting thrown in there to puff up the story. But with all that said, the Switch Pro stuff, to me, is never going to go away because it's too interesting all the way around.
It's not.
The viewer likes the Switch Pro talk. I know there are people in the comments say they don't like to hear it. Well, if you look on,
definitely,
if you're someone who does YouTube or even websites, and you can see the analytics behind the traffic, the click-through rate, all these things, whenever topics around hardware for Nintendo come up, there is a lot of interest in it. People are curious about what Nintendo is doing, whether it is a revision or they're going to move to the next one. Whenever we hear Nintendo and new hardware come up, it's interesting to see what they would do, right? And half the time it's out of left field. Hey, there's a Switch, there's a Switch. All right,
definitely.
That's it, right? Or here's Labo, which
people were expecting a Switch Pro in 2019, but yeah, we got the Switch Lite. Like, this is Nintendo, people. When it comes to new hardware, you don't know what the heck they're going to do. With Sony and Microsoft, you can kind of just safely assume that they're just going to make a more powerful box. You know, the PlayStation 6, it will just be a more powerful box. The next Xbox console will probably just be a more powerful box. But with Nintendo, you just don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know.
Sure, it's not technically hardware because it's cardboard, but it's still something that's physical and that you put together and that it functions in some way with the Switch. But after witnessing and going through the build-up for the Switch, the actual Switch system, after Nintendo revealed it to launch, I mean, it was just mayhem. People were constantly searching for the Switch. They wanted to know more and more information about it. They were curious around the games, the hardware, accessories, everything. And if new hardware does come about at some point, we might see that cycle happen all again, just based on the analytics that even I can see in like the back end of YouTube. So viewers, again, despite the comments that get annoyed at it, are interested in new hardware. So people on YouTube and websites and all these places know that, hey, yeah, if any little thing comes up around the Switch Pro, which we all know that's not what's going to be called anyway, happens, well, it makes sense to do something around that, a talking point, an article, just relaying news.
I can see the new Switch being called Switch 4K, Switch Plus, or Super Switch. That's some of the names that I think Nintendo will call the next Switch. I don't think they're going to call it the Switch Pro. I honestly don't think so.
Anything. And the interesting thing about this is technically a Switch Pro will eventually happen. We don't know what form it'll happen in, and by what I mean with a Switch Pro is a more powerful Switch. That's kind of it. As soon as Sony used it for the PS4, we just use it for everything now, right? That was the only time Sony's done it, like the PS4 Pro. So we just attach it to the Switch, and we all know that's not what Nintendo's going to call it. It'll be a new Nintendo Switch. It'll be a Super Nintendo Switch. It'll be Nintendo Switch 2. Like, they're not going to call it a Nintendo Switch Pro. It just, that doesn't even sound Nintendo at all. But we all hear Pro, and we understand what that at least encompasses with a new piece of hardware, that just being a stronger system, one that may do upscaled 4K and these different things. That's really the biggest point of this now, is for Nintendo to continue to build on the Switch as it is currently and not just kind of leave it out there and let it start to lose momentum, which it kind of is now with its sales.
Ooh.
That's very possible. They're well over.
Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I agree with Smallwave. I think everyone that wanted a Switch has one. And now that I think it's the same people probably buying, you know, at this point, another Switch at their living room, their bedroom, and their other guest room. Like, I think it's just the same people who are buying multiple Switches at this point. Because I don't know if you're going to get more people with a Splatoon 3 Switch. Like, I honestly don't know. And I think if they were to release a new powerful Switch in 2022, that would create interest to the people out there that, you know, that kind of don't really mess with Nintendo like that a little bit, but they like the Switch idea, but they just want a little bit more power. So for them, you know, I could see some interest. I could see it. So I agree with Spawnwave on that one. I do agree with them.
They're past 100 million now and kind of on their way to like 110 million. Eventually, yeah, you're going to run out of steam. And then what does Nintendo do? Do they move to the next generation, or do they extend this one?
You love your stuff.
Another ad.
It's amazing. But what if bad stuff happens to
try to sell you a Switch all over again with like their Switch 4K or their Super Nintendo Switch? So while we don't know what form the Switch Pro will take, whether it's a
Super
revision
Nintendo Switch,
it will at some point happen. Is this the big payoff after what would end up being like 6 or 7 seasons of someone's favorite TV show, and you get the big series finale, and look, there it is.
You wanna know what this reminds me of? The Television Amico. That is what this whole Switch Pro situation is reminding me of. Is the Television Amico, kind of. Like, you know, people were talking about like I don't think the system itself is that interesting to most people, but it's everything going on around it, the behind the scenes. That is what people are interested in when it comes to the television Miko. And I think the same thing is kind of happening with the Switch Pro interest. You know, people are interested what behind the scenes, and people are interested, you know, will it actually come out? You know, is it going to happen this year? Is it going to happen next year? Is it going to happen, you know, the year after that? You know, like the Nintendo Switch Pro and the television Miko are kind of similar in a way, but not exactly, but kind of similar as far as, you know, it being an interesting, you know, story to follow when it comes to the gaming community.
The brand new, more powerful Super Switch. I guess that's what we've been going through this whole time. Legitimately, before the system even came out, we were talking about a more powerful version. So while I know a lot of people will say it's the creator's fault, whether it's on YouTube, websites, publications, anything that bring up these different Switch Pro rumors and talking points, you got to remember, a lot of this is driven by traffic, interest, clicks, and everything there. And, well, if viewers are showing up and they show interest, it's kind of a two-way street. And yes, interest does include that comment maybe you just left on the video that is more or less sarcastic, making fun of the fact that the Switch Pro has been talked about for so long, or how that creator you're watching is still talking about it. Yeah, YouTube likes those comments. They like engagement. So
definitely.
Technically, that would just then help the video spread talk around the Switch Pro, and it just ends up being this like never-ending cycle. But I'm just hoping Nintendo just does something with it at some point, so we can get the piece of hardware and we can kind of move on from there. Whether it is a new generation Switch or revision, it's been something that's been talked about since before the Switch came out, and I'm ready for it to actually come out. But let me know what you guys think about all of this down below. Do you still get annoyed by the Switch Pro talk and rumors? Do you kind of treat it more like entertainment? If it happens, it happens. Or are you someone who has gotten their hopes up quite a bit in the past and just continue to get crushed by reality? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I don't get annoyed with the Switch Pro talk, honestly. Like, I honestly don't. I really don't. I think it's, you know, a product that has interest. You know, there's people out there that do legit want a more powerful Switch, if anything. So, I want a more powerful Switch. I do. I definitely do. Do I think it could be announced this year? You know, and what I mean by this year, I mean late this year. You know, I could see that. And then it being released, you know, sometime early 2023 with Breath of the Wild 2. I could definitely see that. I could also see Nintendo, you know, releasing it, you know, sometime in the fall of 2023. I could definitely see that. I could definitely see Nintendo, you know, maybe announcing this Switch in, you know, September, and then maybe it getting released, you know, sometime in November. I could definitely see that. So once that, you know, Switch, that NVIDIA leak happened with this, you know, Switch 2 or a DLS Switch in the leak, yeah, that's when I knew, like, there's going to be a lot of discussion of the next Switch this year. I was like, once that happened, I was like, yep, Switch Pro talk, rest of 2022, and even early 2023. But yeah, shout out to Spawnwave for making a good video. That was pretty good. Go to his channel if you already haven't subscribed to it. And what do you guys think of the Switch Pro or Switch 4K or whatever they call it? What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's real? Do you guys think it's fake? I mean, when do you guys think it's coming out? Are you guys like me to where you guys think it's coming out in 2023? Do you guys think, like, a lot of Nintendo fans at this point to where you guys think it will be released in 2024? I mean, let me know in the comment section below this video. Hope you guys have a good day, and peace, and bye. So now that you have made it to the end of the video, I want you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And when you hit that notification bell, you gotta hit all notifications. So that way you can be notified for future Lavoncason tech videos, future Lavoncason gaming videos, future Lavoncason live streams, and also other videos that I do, such as, reaction videos and things of that nature. Bye.